Good day. Welcome back to the Vitality Project. I'm Dr. Bob, and I want to thank you for joining me today. Thank you. Yesterday, we introduced a vicious cycle, which we've been talking about here, and it ought to grab all of our attention. That vicious cycle is the cycle of shame, leading to stress, leading to addiction, leading back to stress. What happens here is that we feel bad about ourselves. We start off feeling ashamed of ourselves. And we've identified this as being the number one most stressful emotional state that we could possibly be in. So we get stressed out in this state of shame, even if it's silent, even if we hold it inside ourselves. You know what? The elevations that we have in cortisol and adrenaline, which are the two stress hormones, those never lie. So we get stressed out, and this leads to our various attempts at self-medicating to addictive behaviors. In a nutshell, what we want to do is we want to anesthetize our pain. And then, as we've discussed now again, and I want to reestablish this as it's such an important bedrock of our understanding here of the body and the brain of addiction and recovery, stress is the number one trigger for relapse. And so we've got to address stress, and shame is the number one most stressful human emotion. So there you have it, really. It's the biggest bulk of our underlying our unhealthy coping mechanisms. These are those hard to control, problematic behavior patterns which enslave us all. And by the way, this is our working definition of addiction: enslavement to unhealthy coping mechanisms. And it can be understood really this simply using what I think of as being uncommon sense. We all know about common sense. Well, why am I calling this uncommon sense? Well, I'll give you two reasons. First of all, most of us are simply too close to the canvas of our own lives, or maybe those whom we love. We're too close to be able to see something so clear and obvious. It takes being able to step back and be more objective, and that's very hard when we're either trapped in addiction ourselves or we're in relationship to somebody who is. So that's the first reason that it's uncommon sense. And secondly, it's uncommon sense because, you know, honestly, knowing something cognitively, intellectually, won't keep most of us from engaging again and again. And that very behavior which we're so locked into. The behavior, after all, does provide us temporary relief. For example, we've been talking about from shame. If I feel bad about myself, I can find temporary relief in addictive behavior. The problem is, it's like pouring gasoline on a fire, is that it will lead to longer term distress. And we all know that cognitively, but in the heat of the moment, do we remember that? Probably not. And so what we do is we engage in a behavior that will actually increase our shame, our self-condemnation, and actually lead back into this shame, stress, addiction cycle that we've been talking about. For today's homework exercise, I'd like to ask you something. Can you identify a time in your own life how you've had a mental or intellectual understanding of addictive behavior patterns in your own life, let's say, or maybe somebody that you love? You really understood intellectually what's going on, and yet that cognitive or intellectual understanding has simply not been sufficient to stop you or the one you love from engaging repeatedly in the very behavior that you would most want to manage or control. Can you think of that? That having head knowledge about it has not changed the behavior. We're going to be examining these next days why this is so often the case, starting with when we come back tomorrow. I'd like to invite you to come back and join me tomorrow. In the meantime, I hope that you'll stay safe and be well. Again, thanks for joining me today. Good luck with the homework, and I'll see you back here tomorrow.